Heyo people, Philip Blank here, and today on Start It Up on this hot and muggy day, we have this goofy yet world-loved Daihatsu HiJet Cargo microvan. Now, the HiJet Cargo is a Japanese key-class microvan, not something you see as often as the mini trucks here in the US, but overall still a nifty little machine. In this video, we're going to get into what it's like to drive and own one of these vans, so without further ado, let's get into it. Now getting started, as we said earlier, the HiJet Cargo is not something that's really common here in the US. What it is Daihatsu takes kind of the same chassis as the HiJet mini trucks, a lot of the same interior and front end that is all shared, and then they put on a fully enclosed can, replacing the cargo dump bed with an interior, windows on the side, and then a bench row in the back that flips down, giving you a lot of space here in the cargo. The HiJet Cargo does have similar dimensions to the mini truck. The overall length is 134 inches long, the width is 58 inches wide, and then the height is 74 inches, but we do have a lift kit and then much more aggressive large tires, so it's going to sit a little bit higher than that 74 inches. Another shared aspect of the HiJet Cargo with the mini truck is the 658cc inline 3 motor that's sitting right here in the middle of the cab, and with that it's putting out 46 horsepower and then 44 pound-feet of torque. The turbocharged edition is not available in the US markets. The part that the Cargo strays from the mini truck is the transmission. This has a CVT transmission, a continuously variable belt and clutch transmission here in the rear, and you cannot get the manual transmission that's optional on the HiJet mini truck. Now, CVT in this so far has been pretty satisfactory, and they do say it boosts the fuel efficiency. We're getting around 36 to 40 miles per gallon on this thing. Now, looking at the styling of this thing, the HiJet Cargo is not a beautiful vehicle, and I don't think they're trying to, but it really does have quite an aggressive stance for what it is. Over the past generations, they have definitely increased the squareness of the body, and Daihatsu is saying how this is just allowing them to maximize all the space that's on the inside, going edge to edge with the square shape. Now, the meaty tires on here sticking out the sides also gives it a little more aggressive of a stance, but it really is a goofy little vehicle. All right, starting off with the main feature we talked about, this thing is a right-hand drive, and as we said, it is an automatic, so no shifter knob there in the middle, just your gear selector. But the interior is actually pretty basic, as expected, very similar to the mini truck itself, but it's got all the features you'll need. We'll get into that here in a bit. First thing, popping the hood, got our little handle down here, middle center, pop it up. We've got nothing. So only thing up here, you got your coolant fill on the left and right there. You've got your HVAC fill, and we also have our windshield fluid. Everything else is under the cab, including the battery for jumping. There's no access up here. This is the funniest little hood I've ever seen. Very small, but you do still have some stuff. So now over to the right side, we have a mirror image of the left. This thing is very symmetrical, but you got in the door, just your passenger side of the truck. One feature I like over here is we do have this little mirror with a forward and back facing wheel mirror, so it kind of points just vertically. You can see where you're at in the curb for tight spaces, and just a standard mirror there. Now the sides are both full sliding doors. Inside, we've got just that rear bench. You do have 2 technical seat belts, so this is a 4-passenger officially, but you could easily squeeze in 3 into that, just not safely. The seat flips down. It's going to be a little hard to do with one hand, but you pull this up and then flip the seat down, and then it folds down into this floor space, giving you a fully extended cargo space. So with that down, you do have a nice kind of water-resistant material coating the entire chair and the floor. It's not removable, but easy to wipe down. Now, I can't say I recommend this as a replacement for a Sprinter van. If you're trying to get into the van life, you find one of these and want to retrofit it. Not saying you can't, but it is pretty tight on length space. Now you could outfit this, put a roof rack on the top, put your surfboards up there, and then have enough space inside to sleep. If you put a double or single sleeping pad here with the seat slit up, I'm right at 6 foot. With my feet against the bottom of the doors, I could comfortably sleep in here. Might get a little bit hot as your side and rear windows do not open, only the front, so you'd have to keep that AC going. With that aside though, if you're doing short range trips, or say just living out in Yosemite and you want a climbing van to be able to hold your things and just take up such a minimal footprint, this actually would be a pretty fun vehicle to outfit. So all throughout the interior, you do have a lot of this foam just helping with your NVH, your noise and harshness of the ride. just because it is a little tin can and you get a lot of that road noise. So they do things all over to help compensate, just to make it a little bit softer of a ride. Now in the rear, you do have this little stud here. And what's that doing? You're gonna get a little socket, you rotate it, and then what that does has the threads that come underneath, and then this lowers this lock here, which is holding up your spare tire. And then the spare tire is on a hinge, so it'll flip down, and then you can slide the spare tire in and out. Now in the mini truck, the jack is under the passenger side seat on the left-hand side. In the cargo, you have a little panel here that you pop off, slides out. When you flip your seat up, and then the jack is jacked into place under here, so you have to let off some of the pressure to release it. And then it slides in and out like so. Also under here is your rod for that. And then your wheel jack as well for taking off your lug nuts. This also is how you'll lower the spare tire in the rear on that bolt we pointed out earlier. Now right here on the driver's pillar, you do have a little gas cover hidden. So on the inside by the seat, there is a little switch. We'll toggle that, and out pops your gas cap. Right in the front, on the chairs, you have this little knob. Pull upward, and what it does is allow you to flip the seat down, and then under the seats, you get these two clamps, one here, one over on the other side. You pop up, and that is how you access your engine. So your inline 3 engine is fully recessed right here between the two, and then your CVT transmission's located right here behind. You got your AC compressor there, your alternator, everything to run the full system is all under the seat. You also have decently good seals around this metal lip, and that allows the noise to be kind of isolated. You can go and just lie it backwards, and then have direct access to your battery on this side, your motor right there. Now, if you're looking at these, there is nothing plush about it, all just a basic plastic black all throughout the interior, and then again, that coating, just different layers of foam and rubber covering all of the metal surfaces. You still do have some exposed metal throughout the interior, but typically it's going to be used as a work truck, so I think it covers its bases there. This does have full HVAC and heat, so you got a selector there. And then I like how these knobs are actual physical vent controls, so if you listen while I shift it, you can feel that inside there's a valve opening and closing. You got your AC compressor on and off, and then the rear window does have a defogger. Down here is our only outlet. There's no USB charging ports throughout, so you do have just one 12-volt, 120-watt outlet there. Sadly, there is no manual transmission available on the Hijet Cargo. It is a continuously variable transmission. What you do have is your standard reverse neutral drive, and then you have the S for your speed mode, or we could say sport, and then B for braking, which is going to be putting more back pressure for downhill gradients. On the passenger side, you have a small hook for a bag or a purse. You have a flip-out one right here, your umbrella or whatever you're carrying. And then down here, we do have your owner's manual where you could put your tools. Also a threaded hitch point. Rear fan, collision control, traction control, parking meter, and then auto on and off. And then you can also change the up and down position of your headlights. All right, we've walked through the interior of this thing, and now that we're all hot and sweaty, we're gonna go ahead and start it up and get some AC on. Now, driving this thing makes you feel like a goober. Like in a sports car or something, people usually turn heads like, oh, interesting. But in this thing, people turn their heads and they're like, what the heck? You go to a gas station and people are just like, okay, I've never seen one of those before. But that's pretty comical. Now, if you've never driven a right-hand vehicle, it feels just so strange. It's like driving in the Virgin Islands where you're left-hand drive, but on the left side of the road. Now on the road, the Hijet's little 46 horsepower 3-cylinder. It's gonna push us to a top speed of around 80 miles per hour, and that's absolutely maxing this baby out. With these bigger knobby tires, I don't like to go above like 55 on them, and obviously the wheels really are not highway road wheels, but it really just starts shaking pretty badly. The 0 to 60 on this thing, super slow. Again, especially with these heavier tires, it's like 10-15 seconds. I don't even try. It just takes a while for it to spool up. And now we do not have any cruise control. You do have cameras up here, which is your collision avoidance, so it will have that auto braking, but there is no speed limiter or speed cruise control set. Now, one thing I have to remember, since I really like to push vehicles, this is not a side-by-side. It's a minivan made for city life. This is not what it was designed for, but with that aside, it does a pretty good job off-road. Now for the drive modes, you do have four-wheel drive lock popped all the way up. It's a toggle switch in the middle. It's two-wheel drive, and then on the bottom, it's four-wheel auto, to where if you get some slippage, it'll engage as necessary. Now this Daihatsu is an 11th gen of their Hi-Jet. Woo! Goodness. It's 11th gen of the Hi-Jet series. It's an S710. This Hi-Jet is made in Nakatsu, Iwata, Japan, at the Daihatsu Motor Kyushu plant. And it's running their Daihatsu New Global Architecture, which is the platform that is shared with the Subaru van and the Toyota Pixus van. So, built by Daihatsu, owned by Toyota, and then shared out to other platforms for other companies. The build quality of it, satisfactory, not seeing any issues. And you don't hear a lot of terrible rattling and stuff going on. Most of the things you hear rattling actually is my own gear, and we're in some pretty rough terrain. One thing I do find poorly made in this vehicle is the gear selector. When you're coming from park, you got the lock button to get you through reverse down to neutral, but when you're in neutral, it takes just a bump to get it out of neutral into drive, and then with that, just a bump to get it down into S. Your brake mode does need to have the lock again to just get that engine back pressure. But between drive, S, and neutral, like I've been driving and just bumped my leg on it and it put it out of gear. So I wish the had a little more of a tactile between these, but it's incredibly soft. Now in this little van, almost all the noise coming from it is the whine of our tires. Now I'm gonna flip this passenger seat up. So the road's exposed right there. Your engine is really not, for being right there and seeing it run, it's not that loud. The seal on the bottom of that chair though does help keep that noise out, but I'm just so impressed with the smoothness of this little 3-cylinder. So with this van, you might be asking yourself, is it practical? And the answer is not at all. Is it for most people? No. But is it a fun thing to drive? Incredibly. Just a great little machine, gets around, hauls some people, all your stuff, just really in a class of its own, but practicality is just out the window. It's just really non-existent with this thing in most situations. Now, in Japan, a brand new Hi-Jet like this will set you back 1.1 to about 1.7 million yen, and that converts into US dollars to about $7,000 to $12,000. In the US, obviously we're going to be paying much more, almost up to double, on getting these over, just on the rules and things you have to go through along with the dealerships in the middle. But this will set you back between around 18 to say 22,000. But you can definitely find an older version of this from like the low fives all the way up to say 25,000. But you really just pick what miles and year you want, and then from that is kind of where your price is going to be based off of. Now, like the mini truck, this does not fully classify as a car. In the US, we do have some strict DOT and EPA rules, not allowing this to directly come from Japan. So in most states, the vehicle is classified as an off-road vehicle or say a work truck, and then you can start seeing which counties or states will allow you to title and then plate it, or in some places you just have to fully keep it off-road, more in the classes like a Ranger or a Gator or something like that. Now, if you're in a state that does allow it, you can go to court and go to a judge and get a title for this thing after they approve it for whatever classification you're trying to get. And then once that is approved, you can go to your BMV, DMV, or whatever your state's called, and then take that title and put a plate on it. Once you do this, this already has blinkers, horns, airbags, brake lights, and all of the requirements that are typically needed for a street legal vehicle if you can get it titled. Now that's all I have for you here today on the Daihatsu Hi-Jet Cargo Van, a great little machine that doesn't really have a lot of uses here in the US, but fills a need kind of all over the world for a lot of different families. So let me know if you have any questions, comments, or corrections down below. I'll be happy to get back with you. But other than that, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for your time. Peace.